The winter wind cut across the Texas plains like a blade, carrying snow that stung Elena Harper's face and made her 8-year-old son Daniel shiver against her chest. She held him close, wrapping her shawl around both of them as tightly as she could, but it was not enough. Nothing was enough against this cold. They had been walking for hours, maybe days. Elena had lost track of time somewhere between leaving the wagon with its broken wheel and trying to find help. Thomas, her husband, had gone ahead to find the nearest town, telling them to stay with the wagon. But Daniel had grown sicker, his fever rising, his breathing becoming shallow and labored. Elena could not wait. She had to do something. So she had started walking, carrying Daniel when he could not walk himself, half dragging him when her arms grew too tired. She followed what she thought was the direction Thomas had gone, but the snow had covered all tracks. The landscape looked the same in every direction, white and endless and terrifyingly empty. Now Daniel could no longer walk at all. He lay in her arms, his skin burning with fever despite the cold around them. His lips were pale, almost blue. His eyes stayed closed no matter how much she called his name. "Daniel," Elena whispered, her voice cracking. "Stay with me, sweetheart. Please stay with me." She stumbled forward through the snow, each step harder than the last. Her legs felt like stone. Her hands were numb. She could barely feel Daniel's weight anymore, which frightened her more than anything. Was she losing sensation, or was he slipping away? Elena fell to her knees in the snow. She tried to stand but could not. Her body simply would not obey anymore. She pulled Daniel closer, wrapping herself around him, trying to share what little warmth she had left. "I'm sorry," she whispered into his hair. "I'm so sorry, baby. I tried." The snow continued to fall, soft and silent, beginning to cover them both. Elena closed her eyes, still holding her son. She thought of Thomas, wondered if he would find them, if he would ever know how hard she had fought to save their boy. Then she heard something, a sound that did not belong to the wind or the snow. The soft crunch of footsteps. Elena forced her eyes open and looked up. A man stood before them. He was tall and strong, wearing traditional Navajo clothing, leather and fur that looked much warmer than Elena's thin pioneer dress. His long black hair was tied back, and feathers decorated a band around his head. His face was weathered but kind, with deep brown eyes that showed no surprise at finding them there, only concern. Behind him stood a horse, a beautiful paint mare with a blanket across her back. And beside the horse, a large dog that looked almost like a wolf, with intelligent amber eyes that watched Elena carefully. The man knelt in the snow beside them. He did not speak at first, just looked at Daniel's pale face and felt his forehead with a gentle hand. His expression grew more serious. "Sick," he said in accented but clear English. "Very sick. Need medicine. Need warmth. Please," Elena managed to say through chattering teeth. "Help him. Please help my son." The man nodded once decisively. Without hesitation, he scooped Daniel up in his strong arms as if the boy weighed nothing. Then he turned to Elena and reached down his free hand. "Can you stand?" he asked. Elena took his hand and tried. Her legs shook, but with his support she managed to get to her feet. The world spun around her. "Come," the man said. He whistled softly and the horse moved closer. With surprising gentleness, he lifted Daniel onto the horse's back, positioning him carefully. Then he helped Elena up behind her son, supporting her until she was settled. "Hold him," the man instructed. Elena wrapped her arms around Daniel, keeping him upright against her chest. The man swung up onto the horse in front of them both, his movements smooth and practiced. Elena found herself sandwiched between the warrior and her son, his solid presence blocking the wind. He clicked his tongue and the horse began to move, the dog trotting alongside. "Where are we going?" Elena asked weakly. "My camp," the man replied. "Not far. My wife, she knows medicine. She can help." They rode in silence for a time. The warrior's body blocked most of the wind and Elena could feel warmth radiating from him. She held Daniel close, whispering to him, telling him to hold on just a little longer. "I am called Running Deer," the man said after a while. "What are your names?" "Elena," she replied. "And this is Daniel. My husband is Thomas. He went for help, but Daniel got worse and I couldn't wait." Running Deer nodded. "You are brave to walk in this storm, but foolish too. You would have died." "I know," Elena whispered, "but I had to try." "A mother's love," Running Deer said quietly. "It makes us brave and foolish together. Soon, Elena saw smoke rising in the distance. As they drew closer, she could make out several dwellings, traditional Navajo hogans and a few canvas structures. People emerged as they approached, and Running Deer called out to them in his own language. A woman came forward quickly, her face full of concern. She was beautiful, with long black hair streaked with gray and wearing traditional dress decorated with turquoise and silver. Running Deer spoke to her rapidly and she nodded, gesturing toward one of the larger hogans. Running Deer dismounted and lifted Daniel down from the horse, then helped Elena down. Her legs nearly gave out, but the woman, Running Deer's wife, caught her arm and supported her. "Come," the woman said in careful English. "I am Silver Moon. We help you now." Inside the hogan it was blessedly warm. A fire burned in the center and thick blankets covered the floor. Silver Moon directed Running Deer to lay Daniel on a pile of furs, and she immediately began examining him, feeling his forehead, his neck, listening to his breathing. She spoke to Running Deer, who nodded and left quickly. Elena knelt beside her son, touching his face, whispering his name. Silver Moon gently took Elena's hand. "He is very sick," she said carefully. "But not too late. Fever from cold, maybe infection in lungs. I have medicine. Tea from plants. Poultice for chest. He will sleep many hours, but he will live." Elena burst into tears, her body shaking with sobs of relief. Silver Moon wrapped a warm blanket around her shoulders and pressed a cup of hot tea into her hands. "You drink," Silver Moon commanded kindly. "You are also sick from cold. You cannot help your son if you do not take care of yourself." Over the next hours, Elena watched as Silver Moon worked. She brewed tea from dried herbs and roots, making Daniel swallow small sips even though he was barely conscious. She made a poultice of crushed plants mixed with animal fat and placed it on his chest, covering it with warm cloths. She kept him wrapped in furs, maintaining his temperature while fighting the fever. Running Deer returned with news that he had sent riders to find Thomas, to tell him his family was safe. Then he sat by the fire, the wolf dog at his feet, watching Silver Moon work with quiet confidence. As night fell, Daniel's breathing began to ease. His color improved slightly. Silver Moon nodded with satisfaction and gestured for Elena to rest beside her son. "He will wake tomorrow," she said. "You must sleep now too." Elena lay down next to Daniel, wrapping her arm around him, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest. Before she slept, she looked at Running Deer and Silver Moon, these strangers who had saved their lives. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to repay you." Running Deer shook his head. "No payment needed. In old days, our peoples fought. Much blood, much pain, but that is not the way anymore. Now we help each other. We are all trying to survive in this hard land." "He is right," Silver Moon added. "Your people and my people, we are different. But pain is same. Love is same. A mother's fear for her child, this I understand. I have children too." Elena felt tears on her face again, but they were different now. Not tears of despair, but of gratitude, of relief, of something deeper she could not quite name. 3 days later, Thomas arrived at the Navajo camp, having been found by Running Deer's riders. He rushed into the hogan where Elena and Daniel waited, pulling them both into his arms, his face wet with tears. Daniel was sitting up now, eating soup that Silver Moon had made. His fever had broken on the second day, just as she had predicted. He was still weak, but clearly recovering. Thomas turned to Running Deer and Silver Moon, struggling to find words adequate for what they had done. "You saved my family," he finally said. "How can I ever thank you?" Running Deer smiled. "You already have. By bringing them into your arms with tears of joy. That is all the thanks we need to see a family whole again." Before the Harpers left, Elena embraced Silver Moon, and the two women held each other for a long moment, speaking without words the language that all mothers understand. As they rode away on Running Deer's horse, which he insisted they take until they could find their wagon, Elena looked back at the camp. She saw Running Deer and Silver Moon standing together, watching them go, and she raised her hand in farewell. They had been strangers, separated by culture and language and history. But in the snow, in the face of death, those differences had meant nothing. There had been only one human helping another, one parent understanding another's desperate love. Daniel leaned against his mother as they rode, and Elena held him close, feeling the warmth of his living body against hers. The winter wind still blew cold across the plains, But Elena was no longer afraid of it. She had learned something in that snow, something she would carry with her always. That kindness knew no boundaries, that humanity could bridge any divide, and that sometimes the people you least